Welcome to the No Podcast with me, Nikki Spo. I feel like I should sing a Christmas carol, but oh no. All right. Combating the holiday blues. Jingle bells, you guys. The holidays are here and we are in the home stretch of 2022. Bye-bye. I'm so ready for this year to be done, you guys. I am going to keep this short today with my 6 quick fixes for combating the holiday blues. Let's get started. Now, just because I said 6 quick tips doesn't mean that they're necessarily 6 easy tips. So I am going to go ahead and start with the 2 tips that we really don't want to hear about. So here we go. The first one, I kind of feel like you guys are going to roll your eyes a little bit because you're going to be like, oh, here she goes again. But number 1 is limit your alcohol intake. I'm just going to get this one right out of the way because I'm sober and I don't drink at all anymore. Which, by the way, it's super triggering for me during the holidays because the holidays feel so nice and fuzzy and warm. And I want to feel nice and fuzzy and warm and bubbly with a glass of, you guessed it, bubbly, or a hot toddy, or a coquito. Yes, I am still an alcoholic. And my alcoholism doesn't go away just because I'm sober. I work at it every day. And it's easy for me to romanticize my relationship with alcohol. Regardless of that, and I hope you guys aren't rolling your eyes by now, thinking back to all of the times that I overdrank during the holidays, I don't think this is limited to alcoholics. I really don't. I think many people all over the world can relate to over drinking during the holidays. It just doesn't help anything. Ultimately, whether you like it or not, and I get it, like maybe it makes you feel like the life of the party or whatever, alcohol is a depressant. If alcohol is a depressant and we are trying to combat our holiday blues, my advice is to limit your alcohol intake. Honestly, no one ever regretted not having a hangover. Promise. Okay. Number 2, the second one that I don't want it to come off weird or whatever. And I don't want you guys, maybe you'll roll your eyes, maybe you won't, but if you keep it real, keep it honest, you know yourself. I think we've all been here too. Avoid the overeating. I am not saying, folks, that you should not enjoy all the delicious treats that come with the holidays. I am saying that I personally feel like crap, sluggish, and usually annoyed, like easily irritable when I overeat. And there are so many studies that support the concept that overindulgence in general can affect our mood and overall well-being. You can taste all of the things, and as the saying goes, everything in moderation is particularly helpful here. Tip number 3 is to get your rest. It sounds really, really simple, but during the holidays, we can let the rules slide a little bit. So tip number 3 is to get your rest, to sleep. Okay. We often underestimate how important sleep is, especially when we reach our 30s, and beyond. I swear that in my 20s, I could go out like drinking all night, sleep for like 3 to 4 hours and be ready to rally all the next day. Like that was pretty much the Thanksgiving Eve routine. Yet not anymore. The amount of sleep I got, whether or not I was drinking, really didn't matter. But you know who it matters for now? Me. It matters for me. And it matters for my little kids. It's so easy to let these rules slide during the holidays when we have family in town and when we're hosting or going to parties. But when it comes to combating the holiday blues, having some self-discipline in this area is a must. And I say self-discipline because that's really what it takes, is discipline. But what it really is an act of self-love and care. A side note on this tip number 3 of getting rest, I mentioned like that it's also important for my little kids. It's really easy to like let your kids stay up all night. And I'm not saying don't do that. Like there's going to be a time and a place for it. However, we all know how our little ones get when they're on zero sleep, and it doesn't make anybody's life easier. So sticking to some type of routine is going to be your friend during the holidays if you're trying to combat the holiday blues. My tip number 4 is that boundaries are your bestie. Learn how to say no. This is so hard. Sometimes we want to do the most. There's pressure to see everyone and do all the things. And this is where having firm and respectful boundaries comes into play. I'll give you a personal example. One of my son's birthdays is in early December. That meant that the year he was born, he would be about 2 weeks old during Christmas time, which my family celebrates. And I love Christmas time. That meant I was a new mom dealing with postpartum hormones, a big life change in caring for a new baby, sleepless nights, and crazy boob situation, right? Like breastfeeding and pumping and that. And bleh. You already know how I feel about it. Still, I thought I could host family. Like a part of me knew, time out. Here's the thing, the inner knowing, right? A part of me knew this was going to be a great big disaster for me, but I wanted to make everyone happy. You know, like I'm a person and I care and I love people. I love my family. I wanted to make everyone happy. And I also like wanted everybody to get a chance to meet the new baby. I wanted to have the joy of Christmas. So that said, like I communicated my concerns lightly. You know, I worried that I was rocking the boat or that I would be disappointing people. And honestly, like no one seemed to really care about my concerns. Sure enough, I hosted. And when I did, I had the most epic, enormous, embarrassing meltdown ever. Apparently, I had ruined Christmas. I was so angry about it too. I was like, it's all your faults that I had this meltdown. The reason I share this story is because in reality, and this is so important, this is the thing to write down, okay? It is no one else's responsibility to uphold your boundaries. It is your responsibility, point blank, okay? Let me say that again. It is no one else's responsibility to uphold your boundaries. It is your responsibility, point blank. It's your responsibility to set your own boundaries. And that is hard. For more on setting boundaries, and because then you get into like, okay, I set the boundary, like, but now what? Like somebody's not respecting my boundary. So for more on setting boundaries with family and friends during the holidays, I want you to check out last year's holiday episode that I did with Erin Morrison, the Conscious Mom. It's episode 22. 'Tis the season for family boundaries, which I will link in the show notes because that will go to setting boundaries a lot more in depth. So moving on to my tip number 5. This one is a little bit more specific. It's if you're mourning a loved one. My tip is to seek support. And this also includes if you're going through a breakup. This one is tricky for me. You see, I did lose my mom this year, but we had been estranged for a very long, long time. Still, I remember the first Christmas without my grandfather. I remember how sad my dad and my aunts were. Nobody wanted to gather. And for us, I know that the antidote to that sadness was to gather anyway and to be together anyway. Isolating while grieving can be incredibly tempting. I'm not going to lie. But even having the company of a friend or loved one just to sit with, even if that means putting on a movie and not talking, can be just the thing that you need to combat this specific type of holiday blues. And lastly, I'll close with tip number 6. Try to be open-minded about what the holidays, quote, should be like. Open yourself up to new ideas and traditions. I personally tend to romanticize certain parts of my childhood, especially the nice parts. You know, it's how we move forward. It's how we cope. It's how we survive, is remembering the good things, which can be really healthy, of course. However, especially if you now have a family of your own creation, which requires you to blend traditions or compromise, or if you have a completely blended family, it can be helpful to keep an open mind and look for bonus traditions that you get to be a part of. My friends, truth speakers, light seekers, I hope that these tips help you if you're feeling bluish this time of year. Of course, seeking the guidance of a qualified therapist is something that I will always recommend. Professional help can make all of the difference, especially during the more triggering times in our lives. I'm wishing you all a wonderful holiday season filled with inner peace and inner knowing. Thank you for being on this journey with me. God bless you all, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening to The Know. If you loved this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. Words are so powerful, and someone may need to hear what we covered today. And if you really loved this episode, please take a moment to rate the show and leave a review. Your comments are so important and valued, and they give other listeners insight on what to expect on The Know. You can connect with me personally via Instagram at Nikki Spo and The Know with Nikki Spo. My hope for you today is that you are fearless in looking inward so that you can be your highest, most authentic self and go after the life of your dreams.